Hello, hey guys, it's me, the Average Centrist, and I am here today with Ella Androphobia. Am I saying that right?
That's it. Yeah,
Okay,
Androphobia.
sweet. And so today this is like another part of the discussion around the trans debates, and today we have with us. I suppose we could call you a TERF. I don't know if you're a self-described TERF or not, but like I found you by looking for TERFs, so that's what it is. So do you want to give a comment on that?
Sure. Okay. So I think TERF is a misnomer. For one, I don't think a TERF is a thing. There is no actual feminist who excludes trans-identified people from her activism.
Right.
It's just that there's a division between the males saying that those feminists maintaining female rights go against those trans-identified males. But any trans-identified female who needs her female rights to be protected and fought for, we are going to protect and fight for that woman's rights no matter what. And we fight for children. We fight for boy children and girl children. It's not like there is no trans exclusionary. It's adult male exclusionary.
Right.
Because of the fact that adult males they are the oppressors, but not just the fact that they are the oppressors. They are fully capable of taking care of and advocating for themselves, and women need a movement centering themselves.
Okay.
So we don't need to do that for them. They can do that on their own. And we would support them to do that on their own. We are always asking, why aren't men doing this for each other? Why are men's rights activists?
I will say historically men's rights activists have actually been like rejected by feminist scholars. Like one of the first men's rights activists, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was actually part of the second wave feminist movement in the 60s. He came out with men's rights to do exactly what you're saying, and they actually like barred him from ever speaking again and stuff like that. Like they basically stopped his voice in his tracks.
Do we know his name?
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Like I really can't.
Okay, well, get me some information about him and I'll look him up. But I'm going to just jump out on a limb and say that possibly the things that he was advocating for were in conflict with what the feminists were advocating for.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was genuinely more along the lines of like the whole idea that men are kind of oppressors and they don't really need any kind of movement, so they saw it as kind of selfish or something, essentially.
Okay, well, I don't see necessarily. Okay, so what I do see is that men need their own support system. So for men to advocate for their own system is not. I don't think that's a negative.
It's nice to know that you're for it, by the way.
Sorry?
It's nice to know that you're for it, by the way, though.
Yeah, I mean, boys deserve to grow up with safe environments and avenues to be able to learn about mental health and to be able to have support systems to encourage them to have good, healthy lives so that they're not abusive to women, even to other men. Men are so abusive to each other on top of that. But that's the problem. We don't understand. If there's men's rights activism, why aren't you guys trying to protect each other more? Why aren't you guys developing your own rape crisis centers for males? Like when you look into these men's rights activists, like, what do you call it? When lots of people get conventions.
Yeah.
There's lots of money. Oh, they go to fancy places and they're all wearing really fancy clothes and they talk a big fancy show. But like, what did you produce for your? What did you make? What did you give? What's there for all your fellow men? What did you actually do? It's like a big show. I don't understand because men have the money. Men have the access to all the money to be able to make all the things for men that they need. We don't.
I think
women
men
generally
are less...
don't. We're half of us at home with our kids. We don't have any money, and then the other half that are at home, we're poor. I am a poor person, genuinely. I ended up leaving several careers because of my abusive ex, and now I am on government support because I can't work anymore because of the fact that I'm now like extremely traumatized and like physically disabled because of all of it.
Okay.
We just don't, you guys have the access to the money, you guys have access to the people, to the facilities, to everything.
That's not true.
It could be so easy.
It's not absolutely not
men
true.
run the world. Men own all the corporations, and men have all the money.
Can I just stop? Can I just stop you there for a second? Because certain men having money doesn't mean that benefits all men. Most men are not like you just said. There aren't big movements for men because men aren't unified.
But it should. But men should be. And if you want to go against radical feminism and say that feminists are not supportive of men's rights or male rights activism necessarily, then, well, no, we're not going to support you guys in the way that, like, well, we're going to give you our movement when you have access to things that we don't have access to.
I don't think that's true either, though, by the way, that men have specific access. Like, can I just stop you again? Sorry, just because, like, these are things that... Oh, sorry. Hello? Oh. All right, she is still here. Hello?
I don't know what happened.
Oh.
Hey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on.
That's okay.
I don't know what happened. You just disappeared. My phone made a ding, and then...
Oh, you might have got a notification.
Button.
Yeah. It happens sometimes. Notifications.
Is that going to happen every time?
I don't know. But all I was going to say was... when it comes to the whole, I feel like this is another bit of a misconception about men. Because don't get me wrong, I do understand that there's a lot of men in privileged positions. So I'm not trying to discount that side of the argument. What I mean though is that how that affects all men is not like the same. Like most of the homeless people are men. Like most of the poor people in the world are men. Like a lot of the people that suffer a lot from poverty are men, and maybe more. I'm talking more about in Western world now rather than globally. Whereas I would say that's probably more women. But like but in the Western world, like a lot of men suffer a lot. Like this whole idea of patriarchy just completely uplifting men and all men having access to just whatever they want. Like I just don't. That doesn't match up to reality for me. And there's actually quite a lot of support, especially in countries like the UK, where I'm from, for women, for like business grants, for education opportunities, for like housing benefits and all kinds of things. So I'm just saying that, like, I don't think it's not as black and white as like men just have everything and women have nothing. Like I don't see it in that way.
I know you don't see it in that way, and I know it's hard to acknowledge the systems that are in place. Okay, but like, there are tons of avenues available for women to get ahead in Canada too. Mm-hmm. But I can't get ahead. I can't get help. I can't get treatment for my PTSD. I don't even get approved for the CERB that everybody else in Canada gets, the $2,000 a month. I don't get that. I'm not allowed to apply for that. I'm allowed to only get $1,000 a month for me and my 3 kids because of the fact that I'm on a program for abused women who left abusive men.
What? Wait. So how does that work? Why would they penalize you for that?
Why? I don't know. They don't think it's a penalty. I don't qualify. I'm already getting money, so I don't need CERB. I don't need the money that everybody else
right.
needs.
So that because you're on that program, that gives you money. That's like
but they get $1,000 more than I do.
Right. Okay. That sounds a bit mixed up to me. So don't get me wrong. Like I think
it does sound mixed up, right? Yeah. It is mixed up. Okay. So, and another thing is that, I'm not saying that there's just loads of rich men everywhere and all men are rich. Majority of money is held by males. Okay. Yeah. And the way feminism functions is that we support all women and we try grassroots. We will do everything without money to try to support our sisters. And the problem with men's rights activism is that you guys don't do that. You don't support your brothers like you should. And we can't force you guys to do that.
No, of course not. Yeah,
we can only lead by example, but you guys don't want to listen. You just want to tell us that we're wrong for supporting our sisters 100%. And not you. There are abusive males, trans rights activists, abusive men's rights activists that will tell us that we are wrong for fighting for our sisters, when in reality, you know what? If you cared about yourself and your brothers and your sisters, you would do it with us.
Yeah.
You would take part with us and you would engage with us,
Yeah.
because you're welcome to, but they don't want to. I don't understand.
I have a lot of empathy towards the feminist ideals, mainly because I do have 3 sisters myself, and like I have obviously my mother, a lot of women in my family actually, and so obviously I want to, and I could have daughters myself as well in the future. So like obviously I'm aware, or at least I try my best to be aware of like all the different things. I've grown up around feminism, like I know about it. Like I haven't read loads of literature or anything, but I have a general good sense of what it's all about. And I agree with you, like, it is good that women have come together to form that bond and try and find that bond. I think the only place where I find disagreements is sometimes I'll find things that just, to me, seem a little untrue, or maybe are not taking the whole picture into account. Because obviously it's coming from a very female perspective, which is fair enough, but at the end of the day, it is a very one road, one track perspective to have when there's actually 2 genders in the world. And I like the thought of the genders working together as well, not just against each other. And so like I want to know how to bridge those gaps as well. Yeah,
well, I mean that's a matter that's just listening to each other, and not telling women that what their experience is or could be alternatively because of the fact that you could experience something as a male. It doesn't work like that. You have to accept what women are saying, and you need to promote what women are saying in order to like have success in this movement. And realistically, if you look at like the tenets of radical feminism, nobody's losing. Like nothing bad is going to happen to anybody if we follow, what we've been taught by our foremothers.
Well, can we get into that then? Because I actually don't really know what all like these solid ideas are, or like the root ideas of radical feminism. I know bits and pieces, but I've actually been struggling to find videos of people kind of laying out what it really is. And to be honest with you, I'm so lazy that I'm not going to read a massive book about it. So if you can give me what you, or at least what your interpretation of what radical feminism or what it means for you, that would help me out a lot.
Sure. Radical feminism is a term that means from the root. It just means like from the beginning, from the stem, from like, where it starts. And if you look at it like that, it's like, where does all of women's oppression stem from? And we have to fix that problem, right? And
can I just ask you a quick question though? Does that mean that there are women who are oppressed by men, but are all women oppressed by men?
All women are oppressed by men.
Right, okay. And in what ways are they all oppressed by men? Like, as a completely general rule of thumb, like what oppression by men are all women experiencing at all times?
That's okay. Well, generally, the way I see it is that women are the gestational carrier. Okay, they are the
mothers.
They are the female end of the receiving sex of penetration, and that leaves all females vulnerable to male violence.
Sure.
And that that's what has allowed males to create and like manage to change our society from matriarchal to patriarchal. So that's the root of it for me, is that we are essentially, we're all just vulnerable because of the fact that we can be penetrated by men. Oh, I hate saying that, but it's traumatizing for me. I'm really sorry.
Or basically because women, you think that women, like basically that men have domination over the sexual landscape. Is that what you think?
Yeah.
But how does that square up with the whole idea that women are the ones who kind of pick and choose between different men who they want to be with and stuff like that, and they have like kind of
don't pick and choose.
women never pick and choose who they partner with. They
They
just
don't
are
pick and
always
choose.
forced upon.
Most times, I mean, I was sought by the male, and I just became his person thing. I fell into line. This is what I was supposed to do. There's no way I was like, there was something wrong with me because I dissociated out of penetrative sex. There was something wrong with me, because of the fact that I always felt trapped and terrorized, and like I never could really acknowledge the fact that like patriarchy had socialized me to not actually understand that I was a lesbian, and that these things were so traumatizing for me because of the fact that I was essentially being correctively raped for my entire sexual life. Do you know what I mean?
Right, but was anyone forcing you into that, or was that because you went into it? I mean, I don't mean to be
No, I mean,
so blunt with that, but like,
okay, but listen, if you're given, okay, look at it this way. If you're always given apples your whole entire life,
yeah,
and that's all you know is apples, do you like apples, or are you just eating apples because apples are there?
yeah, sure. Okay, I
Okay,
mean, I
so
don't
if you're
understand, but
told your
that
whole
doesn't
life
mean
and
the
you're
apples
supposed
are
to
oppressing you, though. That doesn't mean the apples are oppressing you.
No, but it means it's the only choice. If you're
Uh,
told your whole life, from the time that I was a little girl, my parents were, and my grandparents and society told me I needed to be with a man. I needed to find a boyfriend. I had to have crushes on boy bands, and I had to accept having these boy dolls given to me as gifts. And if I didn't like them, there was something wrong with me. And if I didn't like boys, I was an aggressive, mean girl. And boys used to, it was awful. I was picked on from the time that I was 8 for not having boobs. And so like when you're faced with like being told you have to be with men, you have to be with men, you have to be with men, and then like men are abusive to you over and over and over again, but you keep being told you have to be with men. It's like, well, I guess this is
all
what
right.
happens. This is what
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, fair enough. Like, I can see you've had bad experiences with men, and I'm saying, and like when you're saying that you felt trapped or even hurt by the relationship you were having, I understand that like you feel like maybe you were socially conditioned into that, but what I'm getting at though is that at the end of the day, you're still in charge of yourself. Like you are still an agent, right? And you. Sorry.
When you're brainwashed, are you in charge?
Yeah, I suppose that is debatable. Yeah, I mean I suppose. So it's hard to say, but I mean, are you going to basically say that society and everyone has basically raped you then, like because they kind of, I guess you could say, brainwashed you into this?
I'm going to say that rape is normalized. We live in a rape culture. And women being socialized to accept being receptacles, okay, for men to be able to ejaculate, is proof of that. Like, no girl is ever taught you need to take care of your own body, and if you don't orgasm during sex with that man, you need to stop having sex with that man.
I mean, I would absolutely tell my daughters that, but like, that's just like, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know very many women who have come to orgasm with their male partners. They all have to do it themselves. And I have only had one male partner do it in my entire life. And it was because he was an extreme narcissist and he wanted to make it work, not because it was about me. It was just a goal.
So
and
you're saying that all men,
and he would get mad at me when I wouldn't, and if I couldn't,
which is wrong, and I understand that. Like,
go ahead, sorry.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it though, because it feels like you're tarring a lot of people with a brush that is like on a kind of on an extreme end, which I don't.
I don't think it's an extreme end. I think this is the normal end.
I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one, because I honestly don't think that the vast majority of men are using women as just like receptacles for cum, essentially. I just don't think I honestly don't think most men are doing that. Like,
do you go online?
Yeah.
Like, have you been frequenting TikTok at all?
No, because I'm not a kid, but yeah.
Okay, well, everybody's on TikTok now. Even like grandmas and grandpas are on TikTok.
Oh yeah,
so
I
it's
hate
not
it.
Just the kids app anymore.
I'm an old man.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can go from TikTok all the way to Pornhub, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that you're maybe you're not, but you're the exception. You're not the rule.
I don't know. It depends what you're going to say.
No, I think to what you're saying. You're saying that you don't think that the majority of males use female bodies as cum receptacles, and I'm saying that if you think that, and you're saying that that's not who you are the exception to the rule.
Right. Well, I want to have. There are times where I can have one night stands with women, but there are times where I want to have relationships with women, and I don't see women as just cum receptacles.
Why would you have a one night stand with a woman?
Sorry.
Why would you, what is the purpose of having a one night stand with a woman? Is to use her body.
Yeah, just as the same as what she was trying to do with me, right?
No, she wasn't. I don't think any woman is trying to have a one night stand with anybody. Any woman who sleeps with a man is trying to have a relationship with a man.
Okay, I mean, fair. If that's what you think, fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of feminists who would disagree with you on that.
Man, because I wanted to just sleep with a man, and a lot of feminists who are liberal feminists, who are men's rights activists, actually, they don't know what they're talking about. They're also brainwashed, just like I was. A lot of TERFs come from liberal feminism. We used to be the girls who would say trans women are women. Mm. I mean, it's not. It's just a matter of learning. Once you learn the things that are happening and you realize what's happened to you, there's no going back. You can't revert back to choosing to be oppressed.
Okay, I mean, fair enough. I mean, I'm just a little bit fascinated because it's just, I think, because obviously there's a lot of women who disagree with you as well out there as well. It wouldn't just be me. There's plenty of women who don't feel this way.
There's a lot of women who say that we shouldn't have abortion rights.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're saying that all these people are just brainwashed and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, that's what the patriarchy does. We're all socialized. That's where it all comes from.
But you could also say that, like, this whole feminist stuff that you're talking about is also a form of brainwashing, right? You could say that.
But if it's so brainwashing, then how come we're not overpowering? How come we're not taking over? How come
feminist institutions have quite a lot of power, actually? Or at least in the UK and in Western countries, they do. They actually have quite a lot of power.
No, we don't.
They do. They do affect legislation and stuff like that, especially when it comes to custody and stuff like that. Like, they do. They do affect things.
There's no. There are feminist organizations that you will hear and see and that are allowed, but there's not a lot of feminist power. And to suggest that, I think is
I don't know. I think women have quite a lot of power in the world. I really do. Like, just being a mother is like one of the most powerful things in the world. And I think having power over a child is like so ridiculously powerful. It beats a CEO.
But why do power over a child? That's weird to me.
Well, you have responsibility / power over a child.
Responsibility is different than power. You see it completely different than me. Men don't see things as like natural, organic, like systems that just like float.
Yes, no, that is what I'm thinking
rules
about.
And like power, like struggle, get to the top. Having a child is not about
you're kind of
power.
misrepresenting what I mean by that. I just mean that you are not only are you responsible for the child, but ultimately you are trying your best to raise it up. Therefore, you have some level of, I guess you could say, power over the child, what it eats, like how they dress, what school they go to, like what views they're given, all that kind of stuff. You even have power over them. If you're an abusive person, you have a lot of power over a child to hurt them and do other things. Like, adults do have power over children. Like, I don't know. That just seems like an inherent truth to me.
No, the way you formulated it, to say like a mother has power over her child, the way patriarchy has power over society, that's what I have a problem with.
Well,
no.
People are raised by other people, are they not? Is that not a power?
Yeah, people are raised by other people who are influenced by society.
Yeah, I know, but okay. So what comes first, the parent to the child, or the society to the adult? Like, which way around does it go?
Well, initially it was the parents. Now it's society.
I'm just trying to.
Don't you see the power of like algorithms and computers and social media and like the way that these apps are designed by literal like casino architects in order to make them extremely addictive? You think that if they're creating these apps to be addictive this way, they can't disseminate information to be addictive this way?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean that's what clickbait is, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, forget about clickbait. Like, let's just look at mainstream media back like the last 50 years. Have you not seen that clip of all the news anchors in the U.S.? They all repeat the same.
I think I may have done.
Blurb.
Yeah, I think I may have seen it. Yeah.
Like it's that's what's happening. That's real. We're being influenced.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, there's definitely brainwashing and all kinds of political shenanigery going on, and I appreciate. Like, okay, I guess what I'm getting at is that, like, I understand a lot of the historical contexts as well. Like, I understand that a lot of sexist things have been put into law for a long time, and like that has obviously been that is something I'm very deeply against. Just to be clear on that. Like, I've never thought that any kind of social role should be legislated, whether it's man or woman, whatever. And I understand that that's going to have rollout effects, over time as well. But I also think that we've been on the other side of it for quite some time. Obviously, there's still problems between the sexes, but there's a lot of men out there who want to help women. And there's a lot of men out there who aren't just objectifying and treating women like shit. Obviously, I know there's a lot of men out there who are doing that, which is what a lot of the feminists are complaining about. But like, I think for the men out there that really want to help women, I think they just feel very frustrated because they're caught in the middle a little bit, where they want to help, but they're being tarred with a brush that is not very fair to them. And then that obviously puts a lot of people off. So I just wonder how you would square with that side of things. Like, how would you attract more men to not necessarily become feminists per se, but just be a bit more in tune with the idea?
Yeah, when you say tarred with a brush, who is tarring them with a brush? The feminists or the people who are angry with the men for trying to ally with the feminists?
Wait, say that again. Sorry, I'm gonna.
Like, when you say, sorry, you said that these people are getting a bad rap, like these men who are trying to be feminist.
From the feminist perspective, they're just saying that all men are like oppressors by default and all that kind of stuff. That's all from what you're saying to me.
Why does that have to offend men to the point that they can't promote and uplift women's voices so that women can achieve liberation? Like, how come a man has to be offended by the fact that he is the oppressor class, and he can't just acknowledge that he's the oppressor class and say, you know what?
Well, because they don't feel like they have done that.
You.
Because they don't feel like they have done that.
No. It doesn't matter. You don't have to identify with the negative things that men have done, but you can acknowledge the negative things that men have done, and you can acknowledge that you, as a man, have a larger reach and more ability to sway people's minds and ideas, and that you could use that. Like, why? How is being offended more important than that? Than using what you're actually bestowed with to help women? How come you have? I just don't see it.
I think because it kind of makes it a thankless task that, like.
But it's not thankless. In the end, when you do show, like, look, I'm on your side 100%. Sorry for banging because you're probably going to hear that in the recording.
You're okay.
If you do, like, show us your cards and you help us out and you're on our side, and we don't have to be afraid of you, it will not be thankless. That makes no sense. Why would it be thankless?
Well, I think because it's already set.
You know Graham, right? Linehan.
Graham,
right? Graham Linehan,
I don't know. No.
the writer of what's it called?
Oh, is he the men's rights guy?
No,
That guy.
he's on our side.
Oh.
He's a writer. Not The Office. What is not The Office? It's hell. I'm not going to remember it. Graham Linehan. If you look him up, he decided to take up, this fight with the radical feminists. And let me tell you, it's not thankless. He is very supported by all of us, and we appreciate him very much. Like, it's not just because it's like you guys are like preemptively attaching thanklessness because of the fact that we won't say not all men. Maybe not all men, but too fucking many.
Okay, well, what if I said to you, women are inherently the oppressors of children because there's too many women hitting children? Well, women are most of the time the people that dole out corporal punishment to children. That's been backed up in like quite a lot of studies. And like
I've seen studies contradict that because males are the ones who are usually abusive to the mother and her kids. So how could it be that the mother is the one that's abusive?
I'm talking
to the
about
children?
specifically children receiving corporal punishment from a parent. It's largely the mother that does it. That's been backed up in a lot of studies.
I'll need to see those studies.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm happy to.
So
I'm
if
happy
you're
to
going to say, but still, if you're going to say that, you would have to say that women. You're saying the women world over are beating our kids.
I'm not saying it literally. I'm using your logic about men. I'm using your logic about men because some men do are. Can I just say what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're saying about men that men are inherently the oppressors because some men are abusive to women, and there's too many men who are abusive to women. So therefore, I can say that all men are just inherently the oppressors, right? I'm saying that because there's more women who are hitting kids. If that is true, then I can just say that women are inherently oppressive to children on that same logical basis. I don't believe that, but I'm just saying, like on that logical basis, I could say that if I wanted to take your kind of line of thinking.
Okay, well, like I said, your statistics don't line up with reality. 90% of violent crimes are committed by males. Like 76% of violent armed robberies are committed by males. 99% of rapes are committed by males. You're saying that almost 100% of corporal punishment exerted on abused children.
No, I never said 100%. I just said it's more than. I just said it's more than men.
Okay, so between 75 and 100 then.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact percentage off the top of my head, but it was above men basically. It was just more. They just said that women hit their kids more.
Well, I think that I don't think it.
But what percentage of men are actually committing those crimes? Do you know? Like, what percentage of the total population of men are actually committing those crimes that you're talking about?
Oh, okay. Well, I have seen that before. I don't have it off the top of my head right now.
It's a very small percentage of men just to
go through things and find stuff when I need it. I'm sorry. Weird to not be able to just pick up my phone and tell you something.
No, yeah, true. But
because I used to be able to remember things really well, but like since all the trauma, I'm just like, okay, you know what? Let me just save everything so I can go back to it.
Yeah, you get mind fog.
Anymore.
I understand. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not asking you to be a walking encyclopedia or anything like that. But I just know. I just know certain things, and like so, because I've researched some of this stuff. Not really in like a kind of. I'm not really reading like feminist literature and stuff. I mainly just try to find answers to certain questions, like just about parenting and stuff like that, just because I want to be a parent as well. I just end up stumbling across things as I go along, and that was just one of them. Like I remember seeing that in my journey along the ways, and I found a statistic about how mothers tend to be the people that dole out the corporal punishment to the kids. If there's corporal punishment being doled out, that's all I mean.
Okay.
But I don't remember where that was done as well. I want to say it was done in the UK, but I can't remember exactly where that study was done. It's a little bit hazy, but I'm pretty sure it's out there though. Anyway, that's kind of besides the point. Like I mean, we've gone off into a bit of a tangent about radical feminist stuff, mainly just because I want to make a bit of sense of like where this is all coming from, and we're getting caught in the weeds a little bit here now because we're getting into more of the ideology of trans radicalism in reference to men, which I guess we kind of need to go over somewhat because it does relate to the trans question on a certain level. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to find a bit more overlap here now with our points of view. Mm-hmm. So you won't have to argue with me as much now. But I just wanted to ask you, like, what is your relationship to the trans discussion? Because obviously you have made a series of videos about it. I've listened to a few, but I didn't really get a full idea of why exactly you were coming at this and why you were coming at it so strong. Obviously, it's related to your feminism, so I just wanted to ask you about it, basically.
Okay, so I guess the first thing that like got me into, looking into this, I was on Facebook. I was in a like cannabis moms group, and they were what they called fourth wave feminists.
Okay,
and I wasn't in the group for the feminist aspect. I was in the group because I had just become a new mom or was pregnant with my middle child, one or the other. And I was just looking for like mom friends. Like that's it really. And so we were in this group. And then I also had like people from previous to being in that group who were friends with me on Facebook who were male to female. And somehow somebody posted that image of, you remember that lit up wall that said, trans women or women, or is that what it said? There was a wall lit up with a display. I'm sure it was in England. And somebody edited it to say trans women are men and blocked out the WO that was lit up on the wall.
Right.
And I reposted that because I didn't even think anything of it at the time, really. At the time, I still wasn't like, I hadn't peaked. I hadn't like nothing. There was no, I just thought it was like kind of funny and like, well, that makes sense. Like, yeah, trans women are men. What's the big deal? And I got doxxed for that.
Wow.
The one male to female, Carla something, as an army trans, has a t-shirt they're known for. It says, "I fought for your right to hate me." And I was actually like a huge supporter of him for a long time. I shared a lot of his posts and I was like, yeah, like this isn't fair, like blah, 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 blah. And then because I posted that, like that edited image that said trans women are men, he went on and he's like, "Excuse me, like you know I'm on your friends list, right?" And I was like, "Okay, cool, thanks, yeah, I got it." And that was it. He lost his shit. He started sharing all my pictures on every social media platform he had, and he was digging and trying to get my personal information. And like I had like just hate and hate and hate coming to my page. Like his post had been shared like 1,000 something times, and this was like before I had done anything on social media. I'd never made a video. Like, I don't even think Instagram had videos yet. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, this is pretty nuts, like what's happening. And, from there, I like kind of like my Facebook group, like supported me with that. And then somehow we ended up like going over to Twitter and finding like more of this stuff because Army trans got banned from Facebook for doing what they did to me. So they started sharing my stuff on Twitter.
Oh, fuck's sake, man.
And that's where I found like Turf Gang on Twitter because of this Army Turf who like, I wouldn't have never found it if it wasn't for him. This probably wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be Queen Turf of YouTube if he hadn't attacked me this way. And then another male to female who I had previously like dated, not like super dated, not like really intense or anything, but we had hung out, we spent a lot of time talking, and I did kiss him. And then when he decided to like come out, like attributed it to me, telling me like I helped him so much to realize who he really was, blah, 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 blah. But then when I posted this picture forgot who I was entirely. Didn't even remember he went on dates with me. Didn't know who I was. Blah blah blah. I was like, wow.
So that person was a trans male, did you say?
Trans-identified male,
Okay.
Male to female, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of these people are going to feel strongly about it. I mean, it's kind of comes part and parcel. If you're going to take a strong stance on it, I guess you can't really expect them all to always understand. And that's part of the reason why I actually want to.
Nobody should get abused for it. I don't care. I can take whatever stance I want. I think that, okay, I wouldn't ever say like the really bad things that people say, but I don't care. Say whatever you say. You don't get to like abuse people for it. You don't get to cyber stalk and mass harass, like converge on a single person to just try to destroy their life. Like, I've been told to kill myself, that I will be killed, that I will be kidnapped, that my kids would be better off if I was dead. Literal exact words. Your kids would be better off if you were dead. Because of the fact that I'm a radical feminist?
I mean, that's abhorrent. And, like, to be honest with you, is worth ignoring because these people are pathological, you know? People who are going to say something like that...
when it comes in droves, in the thousands.
Obviously easier said than done. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's easy, but, like, these people are clearly, like, fucking hysterical and not right, you know? Like...
Yeah.
I mean, because that is just ridiculous, you know. Like, At the end of the day, like, you have your views, but you're not an abusive mother. Like, there's no need to go down that road. And I think
I've been accused of being abusive because listen, one of my videos. I don't know if you saw the one, the Kaylee Guerra video. I picked up my daughter and she pointed at the screen, and she was like, "Oh, look, it's her." And this person accused me of grooming my 3-year-old child to misgender, properly sex someone on a camera that she had never seen before. Like, I just happened to be recording. Like, it walked out of the living room. I picked her up in my arms. She looked at what was happening on the screen and said, "Oh, look, that's her." She didn't know who she was.
Kids don't know what the fuck's going on, let's face it.
No. Like, they're just like the things that they say, like, no, but I'm an abusive mother for that. I abused my mother and psychologically brainwashed her to misgender people, apparently.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that personally. And like this is the thing, like this kind of like online hate mobs and stuff like that, they go both ways. Like, trans people also get a lot of shit as well, and I've noticed that it just seems to be like, it's just part of the system of social media to, like you said earlier about how addictive it is. I think they also drive that addiction by creating like kind of outrage. Like they purposefully make Twitter posts a certain length because if you write short and snappy, you're kind of going to be short and snappy in your attitude as well. And it's a weird psychological effect, and I think it's really unhealthy. And
it's an addiction to re-traumatizing yourself. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a dopamine spike and a cortisol spike that you definitely get addicted to. So like being abusive encourages being abusive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just feeling outrage is giving you that pleasure cortex thing that's going on, you know? And I think that is kind of what's going on. And like a lot of people are caught in that trap at the moment, especially younger people, it seems. Or maybe that's just my observation. I don't know. I could be completely off on that. It might just all be boomers. I have no clue. But like, but it seems like it's a lot of young people from what I can see. And
it's definitely a lot of young people.
And it goes both ways. Like I see a lot of trans people taking a lot of heat as well and being told to kill themselves and that they have mental disorders and stuff like that. It's not nice. Like it's not nice for anyone to experience that. And I think that's why we need to start having more healthier discussions about these situations. So when it comes to trans people in particular, and trans women, I expect, is what you've probably got more of a problem with than trans men, I would expect. But
not a problem per se, and I have issues with both of them because trans-identified females are being brutally medically abused and psychologically abused by this transition process. So I take huge issue with that, like huge issue with that. Girls removing their breast tissue and their uteruses literally impairs their body function for the rest of their lives. Like the younger you get your uterus taken out, the more likely it is that you're going to have Alzheimer's.
Right. Wow, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. And all the puberty blockers that these kids are taking, like it's causes for your prefrontal cortex to never fully develop. You never actually have your full bone density composed. It's why would I be in agreement with that for girls? Like I have two daughters. And I have a son. I have a 12-year-old son. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter and a 4.5-year-old daughter. And I can't imagine letting any of them go through this. And if I ever let my kids do something to their detriment that would literally impact the duration and quality of their life without doing everything in my power to help them live with their body as it is so that they can live a longer, healthier life, how could I really say that I'm being a mother? I mean, not to say I think other people just think like I think with regards to their kids, but like I am not everybody's mother. So like I
think a lot of people would agree with you. I think a lot of people would. Unfortunately, those people are often silenced. But like it's, but I think there's quite a lot of people
under law now in Canada. If you try to stop your child from medically transitioning in Canada, you are at risk of jail, and you are also at risk of having your child removed from your custody.
What if you don't allow them to go through with See, that's just fucking mental. This is the kind of stuff that I want to avoid. Like, this is this kind of, because here in the UK, you have to go through a few stages before you can get like hormones or anything like that. You have certain amounts of psychological evaluation as well. Just to make sure that they know it's not like for other reasons, like for maybe you're schizophrenic or maybe you are just a teenager who's caught up in a trend or something like that, you know, or a plethora of other reasons, you know, because I do believe that dysphoric people exist. I honestly do believe that there are legitimate trans people. I guess you could say I'm more of a trans medicalist on that situation, but and I'm not against those people being able to transition in their own adulthood. But I think when it comes to kids and stuff like that, if you're below the age of 18, I think that's where it's kind of more of a parental decision. And I think generally speaking, I just don't think it should be like legal to allow very small children, maybe under the age of 16, to start making those decisions either. Like maybe if you're 16 and you want to go on puberty blockers or some shit like that, like I don't even know if it would be helpful at that point, but like I might be a bit more open to that in more extreme cases, but like I wouldn't want that to be the norm. I'd prefer it to be like 18 is when people can kind of decide to transition, and that's up to them. They're legal adults. There you go. And it's the same as everything else, like in the UK at least anyway, like cigarettes, alcohol, whatever, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with 18. There are studies now that show that your brain's not actually like fully developed until you're like 32.
26 is usually what they say, isn't it? But yeah, 32 is probably a good place to say as well, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say like the prefrontal cortex starts nearing development around 25. I would say you would have to wait until 25 to physically alter your body for the rest of your life. Like the men who take the female hormones are putting themselves at such great risk of heart disease and like all the organ failures of so many different kinds. It's just, and breast implant illness. Like majority of the women who get breast implants get breast implant illness. Why are we letting people do bad things to themselves that are they're not even actually benefiting them. They're negatively impacting the duration and the health of their lives in order to assuage like a psychological symptom. Do you know what I mean? There's this like one
Yeah.
one pediatrician that I saw, and she kind of like said like, if someone had like believed they were an amputee and like went to the doctor and said like, you need to cut off my arm. Like I am an amputee. I'm not. I don't. This arm hurts me. It's not supposed to be here. You need to cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doctors that are going to do that.
Yeah, I there's people out there like that, isn't there? Which I find really interesting. But yeah, there's people out there who try to do
like,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I had extreme body dysmorphia, like I told you at the beginning of the call. And when I was a child, when I was a young teen, I believed that I was going to save up the money to get all the surgeries. I was going to get a rhinoplasty. I was going to have my teeth straightened, even though they're straight. I was going to have my legs lengthened. I dreamed of a surgery that would lengthen my legs so that I could be tall enough so that I could model. I was going to have my toes shortened because they were too long because my dad always made fun of my toes. Like I didn't just like want these things or like imagine these things. Like I thought about these things for like probably a good 10 years of my life. And if I had access to, I would not be who I would not. And to boot, I have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder. And if I did get all those surgeries, I would never heal.
Yeah,
I would be in pain for the rest of my life. But I would have had them. If this service that that's being proposed to transgender children was given to any other like body dysmorphic human, how many surgeries did I just list off? That's just like 10.
Yeah.
Like literally.
And ultimately,
liposuction. I've never been over like 110 pounds, and I have a little bit of pudge under my belly button because that's like what women have. I wanted to get liposuction. I would have. And this is like, this is not normal. But we are doing it to kids with their genitals.
And ultimately, like you say, if you would have got those surgeries, you would have still been left with the mental problems. So realistically, It's not really going to solve anything. And I often question plastic surgery on that basis as well. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where it falls under the idea of like freedom and freedom of expression and all that kind of jazz. And so
it falls under medicine.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're not gonna outlaw it as a practice or anything like that. And I'm not sure if anyone's even really advocating for it either. But and unfortunately, because of that, I suppose that gives carte blanche to some of these pro-trans activists who do advocate for that kind of stuff, because they can basically say, well, if it's okay for people who want to have plastic surgery, then it's okay if I want to chop my penis off, without even stopping to ask if that might be some other deeper psychological issue going on here.
Yep.
And it is scary, because how do you tell the difference between someone who's legitimately dysphoric and someone who's just a transgender, or someone who's just a narcissist who wants to feel special, and somebody who, there's all these different motivations for becoming trans. Like, how do we distinguish? And that's why I think it's important to have the safeguards of like, you have an examination, you have time to wait, you have to live your life a certain way for them to acknowledge you as legitimate. Like, I know that's hurtful to pro-trans people, but ultimately this is to safeguard not only trans people but other people as well. It's so that we can have like a clear definition of like what trans is and what it means, so that when we can start integrating trans people into maybe feminine spaces or male spaces, whatever, that this can be done on a more clearer distinction than just I woke up on a Wednesday and I want to be a woman. Like or my ex just left me and went to a domestic shelter, and now I want to pretend to be a woman to get in. Like, it's just, like, there's ways that this can be abused, and I think for a lot of cis people, they just want to put those things to bed. And so trans people have got to meet that reality somehow. And at the minute, it just seems like a lot of trans people are just so on the self-ID train, and if anybody says that we can't self-ID, then you're transphobic, and any policy that is meaning that we have to prove that we're trans is transphobic as well. All that kind of stuff.
That's cult behavior, right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's religious type behavior. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, you said something that made me want to answer.
Oh, sorry, I do go on. If you want to interrupt, just go for it.
I was trying really hard to hold on to the thought the whole time, and it just flew away right before you finished.
Yeah.
You said about nope, it's gone. I'm not getting it. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Shoot.
I was fundamentally saying that, like, we just need to have a definition of what trans is, essentially.
Yeah, that's another problem. There's no definition unless we admit the truth, and they don't want to admit the truth. So, like autogonophiles, like they don't want to say they're autogonophiles, and like heterosexual transsexuals don't want to say they're heterosexual transsexuals. Sorry, homosexual transsexuals don't want to say they're homosexual transsexuals. And the girls who are suffering from rapid onset gender dysphoria, they don't understand that they're suffering from rapid onset gender dysphoria. They don't realize that they've been brainwashed because they're children, right? Like they think that it's reality. Like if you tell the kid that the sky is green enough, they're going to believe you. You know what I mean? And like these kids are being like bombarded with the trans cult at every turn. So it's oh man,
it's a messed up situation. I know, and it's hard. It's hard to say about it sometimes because especially the trans people, they do mix things up, especially because they're just so in denial. And one thing I actually wanted to say about as well. About your experience with that army trans guy who doxed you and stuff. One thing that I do find a little bit, it's on the fence for me, like because I want to accept trans people to a certain degree, like I want to acknowledge them, give them respect, and all that kind of stuff. However, I also want to reserve the right to be skeptical from time to time on certain people, depending on who they are and how they're acting. And also, I don't want to be told that I have to align with a delusion. So that doesn't matter what that delusion is. It doesn't matter whether somebody's trying to tell me that a cat is a dog, or a man is a woman, or that God is real or God is false or whatever. Like whatever anybody's dogma is, like I don't want to have to necessarily just subscribe to that because you club me over the head with it. You know what I mean? I'll try to accept you as a woman as much as possible, but ultimately, deep down, I know you're a man. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like, so how are we going to square with that reality? And that's a conversation that I find a lot of trans people don't want to have either. And
they don't want to have it because it involves like getting into their narcissistic desire to have you like brainwash yourself and ignore reality to their benefit. And like that's not really going to get us anywhere. If trans-identified males want to compete in sport, they're going to have to compete with the other men, or they're going to have to try to create their own category in the Paralympics.
Yeah, I thought that as well.
Trans-identified males compete with other trans-identified males. How much sense does it make for a woman to compete with a man who has 40 to however much percentage advantage over her just because of the fact that they have the same? A woman typically has under like 2, whatever the level is of testosterone, something datables, some measurement out of 10. And men are usually at that 10 mark, and they say that the 2 and 10 is equivalent because it's under the 10 mark. No, that's not, that woman and that man are not going to compete at the same level.
Yeah.
It's just, it's atrocious to think that we're going to mix the sexes and that women will remain in public life. We're going to be like sent back to the home. We're only going to be able to go to the bathroom at home. We're not going to be able to participate in sports. We're not going to have access to rape crisis shelters. We're going to lose everything, right? Like trans people can have what they need, but there has to be another system to accommodate them. They can't take away what we have because then we're going to be nothing. And then that can't happen. We have to have stuff. We exist. Like we are here. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah,
Sorry.
I agree with you. Like, I think this is the frustration that a lot of people are having, and I don't think you have to be like any kind of radical feminist to acknowledge it. Like, it's it's a situation where, for me, I just don't know where it's going. Like, after Biden put in his thing about how he was going to allow trans people into sports, into women's sports more specifically, because let's face it, nobody's worried about a trans man running up the ranks in the male-dominated thing. If anything, if they can do it, all the power to them. It's just very unlikely. But like but the other way around is a completely different ball game, and especially when you're talking about people who are transitioning at like the age of 30. And they've had already an athletic professional career that they've done, maybe not that well in, but they still have it. They've trained, they've gained muscle. They are hardy people, you know, more than the average person. And they're then going to then compete with women who are elite people, but ultimately biology is just a truth that we can't get past, and it is just there. It's and ultimately that is just what is going to happen. Not every single trans woman is going to dominate in female sports, but a lot of them will. And
well, there's in the state of, is it Colorado in the U.S.? I think it's Colorado, or is it Connecticut? Somewhere in the states. On one state specifically, I have an infographic of it. 200 titles have been lost to trans-identified males in like school, in elementary, high school level athletics.
Yeah, I think I heard
like
about this actually.
Yeah, it's a lot. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Oh, there's two things.
Go on.
You saw Zuby, right? Zuby, he just did the deadlifting and just broke the record.
Oh, yeah. I know
right?
Zuby. Yeah.
There was another man who entered a race as a woman, won the race, just like on a whim. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna check female." Won it. And then there are athletes like Reese McKinnon who they didn't actually, like, they weren't athletes before they transitioned. They transitioned and then got into sport, and they're winning titles. You know what I mean? So it's not fair all around. It's just always not fair.
Yeah.
It's never going to be fair to have any man in any sport, in any capacity. It will never be level playing ground.
No, it's not fair, especially when you get into the more physical sports as well. Like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just one thing that I wanted to mention on this topic is, and this is the one that Joe Rogan always brings up, but it's something that's close to my heart because I really love UFC. But like, there was a trans woman allowed in UFC to fight women, and she fought a woman so bad she cracked the fucking skull open. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even happen.
Never gonna fight again.
That doesn't even happen between men a lot, like in the UFC. Like, but this happened with her in like one of her first couple of fights with women. Like, and they had to pull her out, and it's just one of them things where it's like, this is, and I want to get some pro-trans people on here in the future, which I know that is going to be very difficult, not only because I've had a detransitioner and a TERF as well, but I do want to get their perspective on this, because there is so much out there about how a lot of people want to essentially just deny reality, and I just don't know how they're going to square that with reality and like how we're going to do policy for them, because they're not going to get... Well, I say they're not going to get anywhere. I'm not sure about that, because it seems like they've made some headway in Canada. But...
Sorry, that was my boy. He was just...
Oh, no. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
That's okay.
Have fun, baby. I love you. Do you need anything else? Okay, let me go grab his helmet for him.
No, that's all good.
Did you see... you probably didn't. There was a thing about how... There's this one creator on TikTok, like this one girl who has the most followers. Her name is Charlie D'Amelio. She does all the dances and whatever.
I've heard this name.
Yeah, and she had this one post where her face was all like crinkled up. She was making like a smiley, winky face. And someone decided to like look into why this post got so much attention versus other girls who made less expressioned faces, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, she figured out, like, the basis of, like, the psychology of it and how, like, people like being able to see the actual expression in your face. And all these kids, with all their filler and Botox in their faces, like expressionless now. Like, and then seeing this little young girl with all these like this lines in her face, like natural. That's what like drove people to her, right? Yeah, like it's just that's the thing. Like if we could just go back to nature, everybody would be so much happier. But like we have to get there, and it's hard to make people let go of all of their addictions and their beliefs, right? Like it's a big religion. Patriarchy is a religion. It's all a religion. You know what I mean?
Could be. I
mean, called different things.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely arguments for a lot of different phenomenons being like kind of filling in the role of religion. Like I know that John McWhorter has said this about the new kind of woke racism type stuff. He's saying that it's kind of like a cult of religion. People have said it about feminism. People say it about men's rights. People say it about all kinds of things. And I actually give it some credit. I actually think that like religion is a psychological phenomenon. I'm kind of with Jordan Peterson on that vibe where it's religion reveals symbolic, like psychological things about human nature. I think not always good, but it's just kind of is what it is, kind of a thing. And I'm kind of sympathetic to that. I think that like there's a kind of a need in us as humans to find meaning. Like we want to have that, you know, we want to make sense of things, and whether that comes from religion or a political ideology or whatever, like it all kind of comes in. I don't know. I just find it interesting. I don't have a lot to say about it, but I just find it really interesting, you know, the idea.
I find the need to like find the reason to exist and find meaning to life. I don't know if this is like my like autism talking. I think it's like narcissistic. Like the reason and the meaning of life is to exist.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
and
you could
to
boil it down to
survive,
that.
right? And like what we used to do, we didn't have all this crap. Like we did, like surviving meant sow your seeds so that you could have shit to eat. You know what I mean? And create your shelter so that you had you know, protection from the elements. Now we're just sitting in our houses and like buying food in boxes. So, you know what I mean? It's like a weird, like there's no driving force to like actually do what we're meant to do. Like if we just lived as actual humans and not as this like manipulated society, I think it would be a lot less violent. I think everybody would be happier because we would all be busy. Like we would be actually doing things to thrive and survive and live and be happy. We wouldn't be looking for things to thrive and survive and be happy. We would just be acting and living. But to get back to that, we would have to deconstruct this like super technology involved society, which is like, I don't know how we're going to do that. The only way that like radical feminists see this ending is like if we somehow achieve like female liberation, which would mean like not just a matriarchy, but like I guess just that we would never have to conform to the rules of man, and
what about the rules of women?
Be able to. Well, the rules of women would be for women,
but not all women could even decide on abortion. So. You know, I'm just saying, like, would
the
rules
like,
for women be?
We can't decide on abortion because of male influence. Women, if we knew, yes, it is because of male influence. Abortion is healthcare. Women need to abort pregnancies to survive sometimes, and whether that means survive psychologically or survive emotionally, it's healthcare and it's survival. And that woman exists here now, and she needs to be taken care of in this existence here now. And for a man to ascribe a life into a thing that is being solely supported by that woman's body just because his cell is inside of her
I think women attribute that
to the woman in an entirety.
I think women attribute
and women
that
wouldn't
life
do that
to
to
it as well.
themselves.
Women do attribute life to the fetus.
No, we don't. We know that it's not alive until we've birthed it. Like, you don't feel it kick until like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months sometimes. Like, you don't, some women don't even know they're pregnant for the first 3 or 4 months because they have no symptoms. You can't just tell me that, oh yeah, all women believe that this thing is alive. No, we don't.
I never said all women. I'm just saying that there's women out there who do that.
Sorry. But the women that do believe that have been brainwashed to believe that, because it's not life. It's not sustainable outside the womb. And if we were all taught from a young age that woman's survival is paramount, we would see it differently. But we're not taught that women matter. We're not taught that we matter ourselves. We're not taught even to take care of ourselves in any way. So like, if we were really taught to prioritize ourselves, no woman would ever believe that the cell inside of her is worth more than herself until that actual like child would be born. I don't know. Do you get it? Sorry.
I think so.
I felt like I had more things to say, but then I just kind of like looked at the tree and I was like, nah, I'm done now.
I get where you're coming from. I'm sure there's plenty of women who don't. I mean, there's plenty of women who don't necessarily even feel maternal. But like, what I'm saying though is that like, I don't know if I attribute everything to just being about like men brainwashing women. Like, I think some women do just innately feel that like when they are pregnant, that they, regardless of the stage of the fetus, they attribute life to it. I just think that there's women out there who do that. I think there's probably quite a lot of women who do that.
I think they could, but I think it's strictly due to, like I said, brainwashing. If we taught those women from the get-go, from childhood, your body is more important and your survival is more important than a pregnancy, they wouldn't see it that way.
Well, I think most people who are sane would know that if the pregnancy is obviously going to complicate your life, like as in the sense of like it could kill you, like then yeah, the abortion.
But pregnancy can kill every woman. Every pregnancy can kill every woman.
Yeah, but most of the time it doesn't.
And on top of that, every pregnancy can cause a woman to kill herself and commit suicide. Like, every pregnancy is a risk.
I suppose so, but does that mean just women just shouldn't get pregnant then, or what? Like, I don't know.
It means they shouldn't get pregnant under duress. It means they should never be forced to remain pregnant. It means that no one should have any say over the autonomy of a single woman except for the woman herself.
I mean, on a certain degree, I do agree with that. I guess for me, the issue of abortion comes more towards the late-term abortions. That's when
No woman wants to have a late-term abortion unless her life is at risk.
Yeah, no, and I think that is generally the case. Yeah. So ultimately, it's not as huge of an issue. To be honest with you, like, I'm not like anti-abortion or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I think I'm more against like late-term abortions. There's just sometimes, occasionally, I'll see videos of feminists. They're usually quite young feminists, but like they'll come out and be like, "I want to be able to abort a baby, even if it's like a week before them being born," and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, under the law, I don't think anybody should be able to say anything. The child can't be viable outside the womb. So I think like there's
a week before being born, they could absolutely be viable. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, as I said, 37 weeks is pretty much when the lungs can do the thing that they need to do outside the womb. So that's when they're actually term. Because 37 weeks is give or take 2 weeks, because they never really know when you got pregnant. You could have got pregnant 2 weeks before you actually got pregnant. So you could be 37 weeks at 30, or you could be 39 weeks at 37.
Just because they can't breathe for themselves means that you just have power to kill them, basically.
No, it's not about power to kill them. It's not that just because they can't breathe. It's because if something happens to that woman at that point in her life, she needs to be able to make that decision. If at 36 or 35 weeks, she finds out that, or she gets some kind of like abused by her partner to the point that she is no longer, whatever, say she's paralyzed. Say she's not paralyzed. Say she just realizes now that she needs to leave this man and she's going to be a poor woman with nowhere to live and she can't give that child a life anymore. There's just so many reasons that could come into play. also, like, just whatever, just for whatever reason, the pregnancy is going to kill the mother. I don't think anybody should be able to tell the mother that she needs to not do what she needs to do to make her life better when that child, it's not here. It doesn't exist. It's her body. It's still her body. Like, the same way that you say that women have power over these kids. But they have power over the kids when they're outside her body, but they don't have power when the kids are inside her body.
Yeah, I'm saying that they do have power. Yeah. I'm saying it's like what they do with that power.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like, if you're suggesting that, you're suggesting that the woman has more power with children who are alive to do what she wants to do with those alive children than she has with her own body that has not had a child exit from it yet, that does not exist in reality.
No, I'm not saying she can't have an abortion.
In late term,
I'm not saying that people can't have an abortion, but when it comes to late term, I do think that the lines are a bit more blurred about if this child is alive or not. And I think that's where some of the, for me,
I don't think it's blurred because the baby's not born. Once the baby's born, then it's alive. It's not born, it's not alive. If it's not born, it's still inside her body. If it's still inside her body, it's her body. If I eat a donut, it's not a donut anymore once I ate it. It's gone. It's in my body now.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want to equate.
If I got a blood transfusion, the blood is part of my body now. It's not blood outside of my body now. Like the things that are inside your body are your body.
Well, it's still your DNA. If it's blood outside your body, it's still connected to you in some degree or another.
No, I mean the blood that's been transfused into your body. It's not in the package outside anymore. It's your body now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how that exactly measures up to like a baby, but like it measures up to like the equivalent of what your body is. It's just your body. Like, there's no baby. It's still not a baby. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't think anything. It doesn't have any relationships with anything. It cannot survive outside the mom's womb. It's potentially viable at 37 weeks, but we don't know for sure that it could survive at 37 weeks. And, it's not here. It's not here. It's still in the body. It's still in the woman's body. It's still the woman's body. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like I say, like when it comes to extreme,
it's still attached to an organ that her body grew in order to make this other thing, to make this cell grow into a body. It's all attached. It's still the woman's body.
Yeah,
what if a woman doesn't want to go through? No, there's so many things that are just like, I don't know. I just don't think that anybody should have any control over a woman's body. I don't necessarily, personally, I would never have a late-term abortion. I would rather give birth to a stillborn baby than have a late-term abortion, but that's not my choice for every woman. I don't think any woman should be told that she cannot do what she needs to do with her own body.
I mean, like, I'm willing to say that for, like, medical complications and stuff, that it's allowable and, like, for very extreme circumstances, but for just people to just willy-nilly just do it, just whenever they feel like it.
But
like,
why do you think you get to have a say?
Well, fair enough. If that's how you feel about it, I feel like I can have a say, and I am going to have a say. Because I'm just a human being on the planet like everybody else, so I can have a say.
But why do you get to say what women get to do with their bodies?
I'm saying that women can't. I'm saying that I don't think it's right for anybody to kill a child in the womb that is a viable child.
There's no child in the womb.
What?
It's not a child. It's not a child.
See, that just seems really dehumanizing to me. I mean, an embryo.
It's not. It doesn't exist. It's not a child. A child is a human baby. Is existing in it's not a cell or forming cells inside of it.
No. In the first few months, obviously that is more the case, but when it's in the late term, that is not the case, is it? It's more of a baby than it is.
No, it's not a child until it's born. It's not an infant. It's not a baby.
So literally 5 minutes before it's born, before it comes out of the thing, it's not a baby even then. So like, what would make the difference there? Like, I don't understand.
Being born.
I think that's a really, really arbitrary distinction, personally.
I think that's a very clear distinction. Out of the body, in the body. In the body belongs to the mother. Out of the body, the child is alive.
I honestly just don't agree with that. Like, I just don't. I
Well,
just fundamentally don't.
I don't think you can disagree because you're not a woman and you haven't pushed babies out of your body. I've done 3.
Okay.
I know
Okay.
the difference.
So you didn't think of
I don't
any?
think
You
men
didn't
should
think
have
of
a
any of
say.
your children before they were born as babies inside you. You didn't think of them as that until they actually came out of you.
Thought of being pregnant. How could I think of them as babies? They didn't exist. I couldn't see them. I can't feel them. I can't think them. I can't just talk to them. Yeah, my body's doing a thing, but how do you contemplate? Oh, hi, human inside my body. Hey, what are you doing? Are you walking? Are you talking? Like, no, it's not a step. No. Like, you can enjoy your pregnancy, but there's no humanizing your pregnancy. Nobody ever thinks like, there's a whole human inside me just walking around. Like, it's not a whole human. It's not a baby. It's a pregnancy, and it's an embryonic process to develop a baby so that you can go through the process of childbirthing to deliver a baby, to bring a life into the world. But before you do that, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't. It's still part of the woman's body. It doesn't exist it doesn't exist.
All right. I mean, fair. If that's your point of view, fair enough. I mean, you have every right to think that. I just don't. Unfortunately, I just can't agree to it.
I just, like I said, I just think it's weird that men think that they can think something. Like, I would never propose that, like...
You would never have a man say that to you, though. I can't say to you, as a woman, you can't speak about this thing. Like, and I wouldn't dream of doing it, because I don't think that's right. But, like, but you're willing to do that to me.
But you don't make babies. So, like, if you did make babies, I would never be like, oh, you can or cannot do this with your body, even though your body does dysfunction naturally and you need to choose what's best with you for your life. Why would I do that to you? I wouldn't do that to other women. I want all women to have the choice. I don't do that to other women, so I wouldn't do that to you. So why would you do that to me?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, do you want men to, like, have a protecting role in society?
Protecting.
Like, to maybe fight crime or come to the aid of people, or
or
just in even personal life, or just in, like, personal life, like, just, like, a man to be somewhat able to be something of a protective figure.
I don't think men need to be necessarily protective. I think men just need to be fair and open, because if we can all just communicate properly with each other and understand, like, the limits of our autonomy, then I think that there would be, like, there would be much less violence if we could communicate. And if there was much less violence, we wouldn't need necessarily a protective role. We would all be supporters of each other. You know what I mean? To like bestow, like, a protective role onto somebody would be to give them some kind of power, and I don't think there should be a power imbalance.
I think the reason I was asking that is because a lot of women do expect that from men, and, like, that is obviously them asking men to basically put their bodies on the line and do something for women and with their bodies, right? So, like, I was just kind of...
I don't think anybody should be fighting anything physical. I don't know. That's not...
So if somebody's trying to kill somebody else and a man can stop it, is it his kind of duty?
I can stop it just as much. If I can see it and he can see it, why aren't we both trying to stop the person from killing the other person?
Yeah, sure. Like, I'm just saying, though, that a lot of the time that falls on men to do that.
I think if you have the capability to do it, that you should do it. I think if you're disabled and you can't do it, then you shouldn't do it. I think if you have your children in tow, you probably shouldn't do it. So there's a lot of contributing factors. If you're a single man and you're very strong, and I'm a mom of 3 walking down the street with 2 of them in a stroller, maybe you should do it. But, like, if we're both alone and we both have the opportunity, why aren't we both contributing? Like, it just makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I was speaking more broadly and generally with that, but, like, The point being, though, is that expectation does fall on men quite a lot.
I think that's from other men.
It's from other men. It's from women too, and it's.
I think it's mostly from other men because men created the system that they are being forced into.
Maybe potentially, but regardless of that, it still happens, and people are asking them to do that. So basically, what I'm saying is then that should men just not do that then, because it's their body, their choice. They don't have to actually fight or care about anybody but themselves. They don't actually have to come to the aid of women. They don't have to help women. They don't have to do anything and put their bodies on the line because it's their body, their choice. And so basically, just fuck it. Like, is that a good attitude?
Well, if you're going to say fuck it, then let us do our feminism and leave us alone. But it doesn't equate. We don't get to be left alone. So we get to be harassed and we get to be not supported. But we don't get supported and we don't get to be left alone. So how does that add up?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to blend the points together here, but I'm having a bit of trouble doing it. I think maybe it's just not a very good analogy. I don't know. But I kind of felt like when you're saying stuff about like nobody can have a say on what you can do with your body, I was just thinking like, well, are there like alternate things for men that women often expect from men that men could have a similar argument to?
There's nothing equivalent. That's why you guys are the oppressors, because we are the gestating sex. There's no equivalent. Right. We will never have power over you guys because of the fact that you guys are the more vulnerable sex because you create and hold life within your womb. There's no equivalent. You can't compare it.
There's no power over women. So if a man wants to have a child, women don't have power over it.
Men can't want to have children.
What?
They don't make children. They don't create children. They don't.
Men do want to be fathers and parents.
Now, wanting to be a father or having a desire to be a father is not. I want to have kids. That's a desire for you. That's a role that you want to take on. A woman wants to have kids because a woman will have the kid within her body. She will go through the process. You're expressing a desire to be a parental figure.
So wait, so you're saying that women want to have a child just so they can be pregnant? You're not saying that they want to be mothers?
No, not just so they can be pregnant. No, not just so that, but no, the entire process of like a woman saying she wants to have a child encompasses all of it. It encompasses the pregnancy, having the child in her life, being the mother, blah, blah, blah. You guys don't make the children. You just exist with the children. So it's not the same as saying you want. It's like you're saying you want to take on a role. You want to have a position in a child's life. To say you want a child, you can't. I don't know how you want a kid. Like you want to buy a kid. You want to take ownership of another human.
I want to have a family with a woman. Yes, and that includes having children with that woman as well. I would accept that you want to have a family and that you want to be a father, but I think it's weird when men say like, I want to have a kid. Like, what do you mean? A woman wants to have the kid. She's the one who has it in her body. You want to make the woman have the kid. Well, if she wants it as well, obviously.
Yeah, I get that. Sorry, it's just, I don't know if that was a weird, like, thought that I had, but it was the way you said it. It made me think like, oh, you want the kid? You want the baby?
Yeah, I think that's a very common. I think that's a very common sentiment with men. Men want to have children as well. Yeah.
But maybe I just have a hard time rationalizing that because of the experience that I've had with my own father and the fathers of my children. So, and just men generally in life.
I can appreciate it. It's definitely hard because like I've had a lot of issues with certain women as well. I've had some really good experiences with women. I've also had some bad experiences with women, and especially when I'm having bad experiences with women, like that, obviously it makes me a little bit more embittered towards women at those times. And I'm not always proud to say that, but that's just the truth of the matter. And I think that is just a normal psychological effect of anyone that's been abused in any capacity. You know, you end up projecting it out. And on some level, there's always truth to these things, but on another level, it can also mean that you're distorting your view of things. Like, so I know that I've had distorted views of women before, and like that hasn't been healthy. So I've had to reevaluate and look at myself, you know. And I think, you know, that can easily go the other way round. Like, I know I've met plenty of women in my time who have obviously had a hard time with men, and they are very embittered towards men. And I understand it. It's a little frustrating to hear sometimes, but I understand it. You know, it is, you know, you're upset at the end of the day. You're fucking upset, and you have every right to be. But I think, you know, I think what I'd try to err against, though, is demonizing too many people, because I think that's part, when you're talking about communication and how we can kind of come together, I think we have to try to acknowledge is not only the flaws, but also the strengths of each other as well. And I think often feminism doesn't really talk about what actually makes a man good, or like what is good masculinity. And I think there is a bit of a crisis with masculinity, I believe, as well, these days. And I think a lot of men are looking for guidance on that. And hopefully that will bear out some better fruit and some better men in the future. But I don't know if always feminism is the right path for men in particular. I think it has some value for men, but I don't know if it's all wrapped up in feminism. So I think feminism, like you said earlier, I think is definitely more for women. And I don't begrudge women having those movements. They can do that. I think what I worry about is just sometimes the level of the discourse can be very negative towards men. And I understand why that is. But I think I think for a lot of men, they want to team up with women, but when they're always feeling like they're coming at it from like like they're always in the negative like place, it just makes it more difficult for them. That's just my kind of point of view on it.
Yeah, no, that's so like the beginning where you said how like it's fruitless, thankless for men to engage in like the feminist supportive role. But like I said, you can't reap the rewards of something without putting the work in. And if we don't have any reason to stop fearing the men who have harmed us for the entirety of our lives,
I mean, absolutely.
We have no reason.
Absolutely categorize abusive behavior. Like, I think like we should be, as a society, more aware of what is abusive behavior, but also what triggers abusive behavior and what creates it. And I don't know if it's always as simple as just saying things like patriarchy and stuff like that. I think there's so many factors.
Well, the larger reason is patriarchy, and it stems down from father to son over generation over generation over generation. Like it's not like I know the reason why my ex-abuser was so abusive, and it's because his father was so abusive.
Yeah, absolutely. It does get handed down.
I totally understand it.
It does.
And his mother had to coddle him to make up for what his dad did to him, and that created what he is. And my ex, even though he's my abuser, I have never separated him from his daughters. From the time that my smallest one was 3 months old, he has had access with them. I had to pump breast milk in order to make sure that he would always have access to my daughters. He has them every weekend now from Friday till Sunday, even though they're only 3.5 and 4.5. I do everything to make sure, and I am the one who had to heal this man of being abusive. I am the one who had to destroy my life so that my daughters could have a healthy father. And I don't think that that's fair.
Well, I just want to commend you for taking that on, first off, because if you were successful in helping him be a less abusive person, then that's just a really courageous and great thing to do. Like, so that's honestly, like, you should be proud of yourself for that, if anything. And I understand it's not fair. I think I have a little bit of a problem sometimes when people say things like that, because ultimately I just don't view life as fair from the get-go. But I understand at the same time, like who should really be asked to do it at the same time. And, you know, fortunately you actually stood up to the plate.
Doctors who get paid lots of money I'm just a poor broken woman. I shouldn't have had to fix a man who has a master's degree in business and 10 years of university education and has jobs that he makes upwards of $175,000. It shouldn't have been me.
Fair enough. I mean, I guess ultimately, though, like life is what it is, and we have to take what comes to us. I suppose.
And I have, and I'm doing what I need to do to make everything better because of everything that I've endured. And radical feminism has showed me that this is the way everything is. And unfortunately, my, believing in men and depending on like this idea that like eventually I would find the one who wouldn't be so bad to me led me to the worst experience of my life.
I think, like, obviously, and this is something that I would just advocate for anybody, though, is that, like, there has to definitely be more education on, like, what is considered to be toxic behavior or just, like, red flags and stuff in relationships so that people can actually recognize it and get out before things go too far. Because I think, like, a lot of times it's always murky. People say things like toxic behavior, but then they don't outline what it actually is. And, like, that, I think it makes it too ambiguous. And I definitely think it's not profitable, but you know what I mean, like beneficial to both men and women to recognize that, because it manifests differently in men and women. And it, and it's bad. It gets bad for everyone.
Yeah.
But I think part of the thing that we have to recognise is that if we're really going to look long term, is we have to focus more on the kids than we can do adults right now, because a lot of adults are not really going to change. So I think like it's more important to focus that effort onto the younger generations than, say, a 30-year-old guy who, I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll
40,
change, but who knows?
I didn't have a choice. Like if I wanted to escape him and ever have the abuse end, I had to do that. It was either this or I was going to not be alive anymore. I didn't have a just chance to be like, oh, I'm just going to take care of my kids and forget him. No, like I was forced to engage with this man beyond my separation. So like I didn't have the opportunity, and like I wish it was just let's just focus on the kids. You don't get to just focus on the kids when you marry an abuser, ever.
Yeah, and I
don't.
Yeah,
and not a lot of women will escape. A lot of women will die at the hands of their abusers. Like I'm lucky. Like he used to strangle me and he used to bear hug me. So like I have this dislocated rib that like always hurts me now, and I'm pretty sure I have some residual, like I'm pretty sure I have some brain damage because he made me black out a few times and I was so scared.
That's just horrible.
And I don't know how long I was out for. But like, yeah, I could have died. And it's not just, you really don't realize, I don't think you can really understand what women go through. It's a lot worse than I think you could really imagine. Like 137 women are killed every day, and that's not just by like random strangers. That's husbands and fathers and brothers and boyfriends that are killing those women. Mm-hmm. Like it's more than that, but 137 women are killed by their intimate family members and partners every day. But men are not dying like that at the hands of women anywhere in the world, ever.
No, I mean, obviously they're dying in much higher numbers again from other men.
Yeah, men. That's the thing. That's the problem. Like, why are you guys killing each other? Like,
because men are not a homogenous group. Men are not a homogenous group. I mean, like, women fight each other too, you know? It's like
we don't kill each other.
Maybe not on, like, the same kinds of levels. No, it's not. The violence isn't on the same kind of levels. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the same. I'm just saying.
And our sisters and our mothers.
But I guess all I meant to by that was that, like, like men are not just sitting pretty, just going like, oh, we're not affected by violence and stuff. You know, like we want to end it too. We want to end that for women and for men.
Like, no, but a lot of them are saying that they want to be violent. They want to be able to be violent, and they want us to shut up and take it. And that's what we face. That's what I face. Like I've told you, I've told you the things that people have said to me. I've had lots of other things said to me too, but those are probably just like some of the worst ones.
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, those people who say things like that are just like the most ridiculous people. Like, and I don't think anyone should ever take their opinions seriously. Because no one, you know, like these issues require a level of compassion, and like ultimately, I think that's just what any victim deserves. Really, like I'm a victim of sexual abuse myself, and like that's been a very difficult journey in my life, and I don't really speak about it that much because I don't really need to, really, but like, but I get what you mean. Like, but this is the thing is like I could, and I think this is what this is why I'm pushing back on some of the ideas of the feminist stuff, is because with my abuse, it was a man, it was a family member, and I could say, and he's gay. Now, I could say, I could develop like a fear against gay people for that if I wanted to, and some people do, who are abused by men like that. I don't think that's actually fair to do that, and I don't want to do that. I know that there are people out there who are like that, but I don't really want to sit there and try and categorize that like, oh, paedophilia is a problem with gay men and all that jazz. I don't want to go down that road because I just don't think it's the right road. There may be other details and connections with stuff like that, but I don't believe that all gay men are involved in this kind of paedophilic attitude. And that's what I see a little bit sometimes with some of the things that you're talking about with feminism, is that obviously I know you've had very difficult experiences with men. But I think sometimes when you're talking about this feminist stuff, it feels like you're projecting those experiences onto other men, and you're using feminism as a means to do that because it's kind of made sense to you. Like their behavior is like these toxic patriarchal people, and that makes sense to me. And then you kind of saying that that's kind of like how all men operate, and that's where I'm fine. That's where I'm just like, that's where it breaks down for me a little bit, you know, like, because I just don't think that all men are operating on that kind of level. I think abusive men are generally, but not all men.
I know. So I understand that it's offensive to men for me to generalize that most men are abusive and most men do mistreat women, but like you know that like you've experienced it firsthand. You know men are sexually violent.
Well, they can be.
I've been raped several times as well. I hate saying that. I just made a TikTok the other day. Like, I've never been afraid of a woman. I've never run away from a woman. I've never been like destroyed or like psychologically like mind fucked by a woman. Ever. You guys, like, if you're not the man that we're talking about, you need to separate yourself from the idea that this is literally applied to all men. In general, patriarchy affects most men, most males, and most violent crimes and most rapes and all that. It's attributed to men. Most of the murders committed on men are by other men. It's not like I'm just pulling this out of thin air. It's reality based, and if it doesn't fit with you well, then either it's because it's not who you are, and you know that you're not like that, or there's a narcissistic aspect of it where these men are like, oh, she's pointing out like the bad things about me, so like I need to silence her. And for those men, I say, I don't give a fuck. because I'm going to call you out. But for men who know that they're not the violent, like, oppressive type who will but the thing is, like, if you're not oppressive, you're going to stand by women's right to abort a baby no matter what. You're going to stand by a woman and say that her autonomy is, like I said, paramount, above all, no matter what. And you believe that her autonomy, and you will never put your say on her autonomy. And if you want to be that man, and you know you are that man, then I would say that you guys need to learn to separate, like, yourself, the idea of yourself, as the idea of all men. Like, you guys are the ones that are sewing those together.
Well, I was only saying that from something you said
you.
earlier about, like, the radical feminist position is that all men are oppressors. Like, that's where I'm getting that from.
All men are oppressors, and all men have the capacity to rape and impregnate and kill all women. All men do.
But
my son could kill me really easy. His wrists are bigger than mine, and he's 12.
But what I'm saying is that most men don't. Like, I understand. I know that most of the rapes, murders, and assaults and all that kind of jazz are predominantly male. I know that. What I'm saying
not just predominantly, like almost 100%.
Yes, what I'm saying is the percentage of men engaging in that behavior is very small. Like if you count up the crimes, it's not.
No, because no, you're looking at it as, like, just the ones that were convicted. Like, I just watched something the other day. Oh my God, I'll send it to you afterwards. I'll send you the video. And at the end of the video, the girl just put a bunch of statistics at the bottom of the page. And it was just, like, incredible to see, like, from how many rapes happen to how many women actually report it, to how many are actually prosecuted, to how many are actually found guilty.
Yeah.
The difference is astronomical. So your belief that men, that there's a very small amount of men, no, it's a very small amount of men who are being convicted. Not a very small amount of men who are being violent. It's just a very small amount that are being caught.
Right. I mean,
if you're not that man and you don't identify with that and you're not part of that group and you know you don't behave like that, you need to take pride in that and say, fuck all you shitheads. You're not supposed to be so shitty like this. Let's do it this way. I have a fucking good idea. Start listening to me. Let's fucking get the ball rolling. Well, this is why we throw
these people in prison, isn't it? I mean, I'm behind all laws that are against
prison, okay, whatever. Let's put people in jail. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, really, let's get into men's rights activism. Let's actually promote healthy men who want to promote healthy women. Like, stand up and say, I am the healthy man, and I want you to be healthy like me. Let's fight this together, and let's hold hands with our sisters and go into this head on. But don't be offended by your sisters pointing out male violence and what they've experienced, because I'm sorry, like, we're allowed to say what we've experienced, and we're allowed to say that we've experienced that at the hands of most of the men in our lives.
Okay.
This isn't just like I've one or two. Like, I mean, this is like over the course of my life. And I don't live, I've never lived in a poor neighborhood. I'm not from a poor family. I didn't go to shitty schools where there's just all these bad people. Like, I'm white also. Like, hello. I've been through hell my entire life at the hands of almost every male that I have had to interact with. I've even been sexually assaulted in my workplace by someone I worked with during work hours. And I had to pretend that I liked it.
Why?
Because I couldn't tell. Because if I told, then I would ruin his career. And
so
I couldn't do that at the time. I was a child. I was 21.
That's not a child.
I had the brain of a child. I had no idea what I know now.
I mean, I appreciate that, but 21 is not a child.
It is. Your brain is not fully developed. Your brain, like I said, prefrontal cortex only starts nearing development at 25 years old. And I had already been traumatized several times before my 21st birthday. I had the mind of a child. I did not have a fully developed, completely able to, um, you know, say that I deserved to be protected. And also the times before, like I had been raped as a 16-year-old, and I went to the police and I told them what happened, and they pretty much told me that, no, it was his word against mine, and there's nothing that could happen. And they put him on a list.
It is a tough one with rape because obviously evidence is really hard to get, and like I really hope they can improve that in future because I think it would just be really beneficial. Like I think anyone who's engaging in that kind of behaviour needs to be fucking put away. So like the better we can make that and more robust that we can make that, the better. But I think there has to be a couple of things that happen, and like you did the right thing going to the police, by the way, and it's unfortunate that that's all they could do. Like I was fortunate with my case, with my sexual abuse case, because if it wasn't for him somewhat confessing to it, I probably wouldn't have been able to get a conviction myself either. So it's hard.
Oh no, my abuser, he confessed. He said he did it.
Really?
He just he said he told them I wanted it. I was half asleep.
Well, that's not saying that he didn't
I was so drunk I couldn't find my handset to pick it up. I saw it ringing. I couldn't manage to get my hand onto the lit up screen to pick it up to answer it because I was so drunk. And he said that I wanted it. And I begged him to let go of me. And he wouldn't.
Well, I mean...
And he told the cops that he did it.
Well, to me, that's not him admitting that he did it. That's him revising the situation to suit his narrative. Like with my abuser, he actually admitted to the abuse. Like it wasn't. He didn't say that I wanted it and all this stuff. He just he admitted to some of it. He didn't admit to all of it, but he did admit to some of it, and that's what got the conviction. So that's fundamentally that's probably why the police couldn't do anything because they couldn't gather any evidence. And this is the thing: I don't know how you actually go about doing that because this is when these problems meet the reality of the resources that people have at their disposal, and also there is obviously historical problems with the police with just following this up in general anyway. So like I understand there's a lot of problems there, and it is really unfair. So yeah, I'm with you on. In that respect, like the more robust that we can make those practices, the better, and the more women that come forward and feel confident in doing so, the better as well. I think sometimes, although I know it can be the truth for some people that they often don't get the service or the care that they need when it comes to reporting to the police, I think sometimes when people really hammer that home all the time, I think it sends a message to young people that there's no point going to the police in the first place. And I think that's kind of wrong. Like, it's kind of counterproductive to the situation. Like, I think we should always encourage people to do that. Regardless of whether they get results or not, they should always go.
I tend to disagree with you because every time that I have ever called the cops, I used to call them on my last abuser, and they would tell me, we can't do anything about it. Why are you calling us when you're fighting with your husband? Fighting with my husband? He's strangling me. He's chasing me around the house and causing me to barricade myself in the room to get away from him. What do you mean? And like, the missing and murdered Indigenous women here in Canada, up north, the police, like, I don't know, like maybe look up like the Starlight tours, like they take Indigenous people out to the middle of nowhere and leave them naked to die in the cold. Like, I don't believe calling in the police is a good option or a good idea, and I don't encourage it either. It's really not a system set up for women to protect women at all. It's to protect the abusers.
If that's how it is in Canada, fair enough. In the UK, it's not like that. I think most of the time when domestic abuse calls come in, they tend to go and sort of check it out if they can.
Yeah, well, when another thing, police get called here on mental health calls, and then they shoot the person that they were called on for the mental health call. It's not safe here to call the police in Canada.
I mean, are they being dangerous or? What? They don't just show up and shoot somebody, surely.
They showed up to one lady's apartment and ended up forcing her to fall off the balcony. Like there's, I mean, if you show up for a mental health call, you should not be showing up with guns.
So what's the solution then for somebody who's being abused by somebody, like, and you're saying not to go to the police then? So, like, what do they do then?
They need to find a women's association. They have to go to a shelter. They have to make an escape plan. Like, they have to find the feminist organization. They have to reach out to other women. They have to return back to, like, calling their mothers, calling their sisters, calling their friends. Like, we can't depend on the police because they don't do anything for us. They don't do anything for us. Like, literally nothing.
Okay.
The feminist, like, networking between women is that's the only thing that I would suggest for other women to do. Is like I said, you have to get in touch with every single woman, build up your relationships again, and make your escape plan. Start saving your money, and get out.
I think that's definitely a good strategy as well. Like, so yeah, I actually agree with you. I guess I just also agree. I also think you should probably get in touch with the police as well. But that's just my opinion.
Like I said, lots of times, well, police don't do anything, and a lot of times it'll make your abuser hurt you more.
Well, I mean, okay, I don't know how to verify what you're saying. I mean, like, I'm taking your word for it. That's not I don't think that's generally the experience that happens in the UK. I don't know what Canada's like. So maybe it could be quite different.
I'm literally telling you my personal experience. I'm giving you everything that I've been through and everything that all the women that I've spoken to in the shelters, in the programs that I went to with. I'm relaying you, like, real life experience.
No, that's fair. That's like I say, I am taking it on face value, you know. So I'm not completely doubting you. It's but I guess in a way it's just like en masse, just police just not doing these things. It does seem a little bit sketchy, this idea, but it could very well be true. So I don't know.
21-year-old men are cops coming to my door, to my domestic, telling me that I shouldn't be calling them when I fight with my husband. 21-year-olds. What does a 21-year-old child know about a domestic violence situation?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem pretty messed up. Like, if it was a legitimate domestic dispute, I don't understand why they'd be so flippant about it, especially if there's, like, evidence of it. Like, it's just, yeah, it seems
because I wasn't bleeding.
Yeah, but there's bruises, marks. You can have various other things.
No, I didn't have any marks. He strangled me. He would hug me like this, really tight. I would never get marked.
Yeah, that's very calculated, isn't it? Then in that case, I mean, I don't know if that is like the police's fault that they didn't know that, or is it like his fault for being so calculated and hiding it like that?
Both. Well, he got me locked in a hospital one time because he lied to the police about our encounter. I was upstairs with the ambulatory services, and he was outside with the police. And he lied to them and said that I was a lunatic and that I needed to be taken away, and that he didn't want to deal with me anymore. And this was after he squeezed me while I had my newborn 3-month-old in my arms. And I told the cops what he did. And I told the ambulance. And they still made me go to the hospital and locked me up there for 36 hours without my newborn daughter. And nothing happened to him. He didn't get arrested. He didn't get charged with anything.
Yeah, that's really sad. And, like, things do fall through the cracks. And again, like I say, I want these things to be more...
I'm just sick of falling through the cracks, though. Like, how many times am I going to fall through the cracks? You're telling me that I'm the only woman that this has happened to, that I have fallen through the cracks
of course
over
not.
30 times, and this is just me? I'm the only unlucky one?
No, obviously not.
Sorry for crying. I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. No, you cry if you need to. No, obviously, I think obviously things need to change. Clearly, I don't know what the answers are for Canada exactly. I'm not an expert on any of the systems in Canada or the police or anything like that. So I it's really hard for me to make any kind of argument on this. All I can say is that I think I believe you, and I think these things, it is really sad. It just shouldn't really be happening to anyone. Unfortunately, it does happen, and so we have to figure out ways in which to stop it from happening. But I think. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. I don't know if that means that not contacting the police is a good idea, because I think if police have more contact with domestic problems and they're more trained on it, that would be more beneficial.
That's the problem. Police should have a BA in psychology. If you don't have any education in psychological care, you should not be allowed to be a police officer. That's where it needs to start. They shouldn't be getting experience by using abused women as guinea pigs.
Well, I think the problem with that comes in is that you're going to slow down the process of people even recruiting police, and then there'll be less police, and then there'll be less people to do anything about domestic violence.
Do you know how many people have BAs in psychology who are making little to no money because they're women and they've decided to go into early childhood education or something like that? All those women who are making no money with their BAs, they could be in the police force, really helping society. And if they put money towards those women and those people who have their BAs in psychology, they could draw in. I'm sure they could. If there's women who are willing to take a $60,000 job with their university education, I'm sure that they'd be willing to take a higher paying job in the police force. I can't imagine that it would be difficult to recruit these people. There are so many university educated millennials and even now Gen Zs that cannot get work. You're telling me we're going to have a hard time getting them into the police force? I don't think so. The police get paid really well. Really well.
They also have to do a lot of the dirty work of society, they have to deal with a lot.
Dirty work, but they don't make it any less dirty. They perpetuate it.
Well, we've kind of gone off topic a little bit here.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's okay. I've been enjoying the discussion. I think it's an interesting discussion. I'm thankful that you can feel open enough that you can speak about your experiences as well. I know I've
Thanks for dealing with me. Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I know I've pushed back on it and stuff like that and given my thoughts, but honestly, I appreciate you just saying how you feel. In all honesty. And I don't have a lot of answers for you, and I wish I could give you a bit more comfort to it. But because obviously I don't know all the ins and outs of the situation, I honestly, I'm just a little bit lost for what to say sometimes. And obviously I don't know you very well as well. So, but I think you've gone quiet. I don't know if you've muted yourself.
No, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
So can I ask then, when it comes to the trans stuff and the trans people being involved in women's spaces and stuff like that, is part of the fear for you, is that partly to do with these bad experiences that you've had with men? Obviously, like you're saying, you acknowledge that these trans people are men in your eyes, and I'm just thinking, is there I think she's just had another notification. Yeah, she's back.
I'm sorry, notification again.
Yeah, I thought so.
What the hell? Okay.
No, that's all.
In my eyes, what?
Obviously, in your eyes, you see trans women as men, and I'm just wondering, obviously, you have some trepidation about allowing trans people into women's spaces and stuff. Is that kind of linked with your bad experiences with men? Are they kind of linked up there, or is it partly to do with those fears, or is it separate?
I guess so. For sure, it plays into it because I know what men are capable of. I know what men are capable of even when I'm carrying their children, and after I've birthed their children, they're still capable of being extremely violent towards me. So, to say that just because a man has decided to uh, live or present differently means that he is less of a violent threat to me, it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing to me. The man who lived with me and married me and said it would never hurt me and that I birthed children for tried to kill me. Okay, so it definitely plays a role. But then all I have to really do is think about my life as a girl and how uncomfortable I was in every circumstance where I had to be faced with a male during my whatever it was, even if I was in a bathing suit or at school in gym class in shorts and a t-shirt. I know that those spaces are uncomfortable enough as they are because my skin is exposed in front of men. Never mind having to be behind closed doors in the place where I'm supposed to be safe without boys at all, without no boys being able to see me. Then what? Then I'm just going to recluse out from society entirely. I'll never, I would have never gone to gym class. I would have never changed my clothes to go to gym class. I would have said, I can't do this. I would have never gone to the bathroom at school. Mm-hmm. I would have never worn a kilt. I would have never, I would have never played sports. I would have never gone to parties. I would have not engaged with a lot of the things that you need to engage with in order to develop your personality as a child for fear of being around those boys because I was already afraid of all the boys in the first place. So now stick another boy inside a place where I had a hard time changing as a child. I had to change in my closet, in the dark, with my doors shut, with the light, with the window covered so no light could come in the window. So I couldn't even see my own body when I would change when I was younger. That's how uncomfortable I was with myself. Mm. So now you're going to throw a boy in there with me? I'm not going to exist anymore.
Especially
I won't do anything. I won't leave my room.
Boys.
Yeah. Yeah, even as it was, boys were ogling me and obsessed and the sorry. That just felt like a needle poked me in my throat, right from the front of my. That stopped me from talking. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The guy who raped me when I was 16 went to high school with me, and he was very groomy. He really tried to put himself into the places that I was, and I didn't really recognize it at the time because, like I said, I have ADHD. I am self-diagnosed autistic, though. I don't have an autistic diagnosis, but I'm pretty sure I'm autistic. And I couldn't pick up on what he was doing. It was really only years later that I realized what was happening with that. Mm. So not only would I be vulnerable to the fact that I wouldn't have even wanted to exist in these situations, I would close myself off so entirely. I would also be at risk of being manipulated by these people because like I said, that guy groomed me. He tried to make it seem like he was my friend so that when he would end up showing up at that party, it was like he was invited there. But you don't show up to a party at 3:00 in the morning when everybody's asleep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's definitely creeper vibes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just it's just putting girls too much at risk. They're exposing them too much. Girls need safe spaces, and the fact that we don't teach girls to stand up and protect themselves, and then on top of that, we're going to take away what little space they have for themselves. It's overwhelming to think that I could send my girls into situations like that. my one daughter, she started distance education this year because of like COVID, right? So she couldn't go to school, so she started her junior kindergarten year on a laptop here at the house. And like all this stuff is like, well, maybe I'm not going to send her to school. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm going to homeschool her and try to avoid all of this, because if this is what she's going to be put, at risk of.
Do you not think there could
Am I being a good mother?
Could there be long-term problems with that though? Because if you don't, if she's not allowed to engage with the world on her own terms, she may actually be more vulnerable in the future because of that.
Well, no, see, that homeschooling is not like isolating the child. Like, you homeschool kids with other homeschool families. Like, you integrate them into society. It's just a matter of using the mainstream curriculum and the, like, indoctrination system that we have, that here in Canada, like, you have to learn gender identity in the sex ed course.
Okay.
Like, we shouldn't be teaching that to kids in grade 3 and grade 4.
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
That's just encouraging gender dysphoria. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I'm saying when I'm talking about homeschooling. Like, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
No, that's fair enough. I don't think it's that far gone in the UK, but it looks like it's going in that direction, which is unsettling. And like, I agree with your ideas, because like, obviously I know what men are like as well, and especially I know what teenage boys are like. And like you say, including trans people into dressing rooms and stuff like that, I do think it is a very short-sighted way of looking at things. I don't think people are really looking at the bigger picture. And thankfully, this is where we can convene and we can agree finally, because I don't think girls should be subjected to that kind of thing. And I don't think it should just be at the behest of such a tiny portion of the population. I think they should get fair treatment where we can give it, but there are certain things that we're just going to have to say no to. And I think trans people have just really got to accept that. And so, yeah. But I'm not sure if there's anything more I've got to ask you, really, at this point now. And I don't know how long we've been going for, either.
Oh, wow. Almost 3 hours.
Almost 3 hours. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. You've been really, really gracious with your time. So thank you so much.
I'm sorry if I was, like, aggressive at all. I don't mean to be.
I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Like,
cool,
I don't mind debating and I don't mind debating or talking with anyone about anything, and I don't really ever take anything as like a super personal slight. I was more or less kind of just trying to argue my point of view against yours, and it wasn't anything malicious. Like, I can see where your point of view is coming from. Don't always agree with it, but I have some sympathies towards some elements of it as well. And that's just coming from one human to another. I mean, like, I just don't want anyone to experience any kind of suffering. But at the same time, I find myself in a camp where I want to be very realistic about everything. And so that means you have to be very pragmatic about all of the stuff going on. And it just puts everything in a very difficult position, because I want to do as much about the abusive men problem as possible. I guess where we disagree is like how we go about doing that, I suppose. And for me, I think I fall more into the category of trying to raise boys to understand masculinity, understand their testosterone, understand that they can be aggressive, understand that they can have these things, and how to use that well, because it can actually be used for good as well. And when to use it and when not to use it. And I think there's some element of like absent fathers at play here. And I'm not going to cast blame on men and women for this, because I think it's kind of simultaneous. You get your abusive men that push women out of their lives and stuff like that, and then leave the kids and abandon the kids. There's also abusive mothers who push men out of the picture as well. So like I would say it's probably more absent fathers than the abusive women thing, but I'm just acknowledging that they both exist. But like, but the absent father problem is obviously leaving a lot of boys in particular without any guidance on that. And obviously a lot of women try to fill that role, but obviously not a lot of women understand what it means to be a man or what that feels like. So it's harder for them to translate that or guide them in it. So I think that's producing a lot of problems as well. I think that's producing a lot of the violence that you're talking about as well, because it breeds a lot of unstable men. So like, yeah, there's a lot of, and like for me, that's where I would put my focuses generally. Just because I think if you can nip it in the bud, we don't have to deal with it later. And unfortunately, for the broken people that already exist, you have to take your responsibility for your own life or go to prison. I don't know. Like it's one of the two. Like you either start changing and do something about it, or you can be cast out of society for all I care. So, yeah, and that's my kind of 2 cents on it. So I think we can leave it there on like a bit of a high note. You know, we've convened, we've agreed. Trans people need to accept some certain realities, and women do fear it. You know, and I'm sure you're not unique in the fact that women do fear trans people coming into these sacred spaces because they are so well aware of the abuses that men can dish out. And I just wish there was more pro-trans people who could kind of see that side of it, because it seems like a lot of them really ignore that, which I don't. I just don't like that.
I really wish that they would work with us. I genuinely, I can't see why women saying like, yes, we need our own spaces, but you deserve your rights and your spaces too. Let's work towards that. I can't see why that's a reason to divide. To me, that's like, let's work towards that common goal. But it's like, it's not enough. And that's the problem. Like we can't give more than what we have. You know what I mean? And also, to your point, teaching boys from a very young age that testosterone can result in, you know, a strength that can turn violent, but can also be used for good. Like I've been telling people, like, I want to teach kids from JK. Like, this should be in school. Boys need to learn this, girls need to learn this, and we need to teach boys and girls that they need to grow up together and be conscious of this and be conscious of this so that we can have a society that functions, like, actually well. How I'm going to implement this into the school system, I don't know yet, because I have no power, but that's what needs to happen.
Well, it used to be the role of...
that you ended on that, because...
It used to be the role of literature and obviously fathers and stuff like that to hand this down to boys, obviously with varying degrees of success. But like, but that was generally thought to be the ideal, and obviously the same for mothers to daughters, and obviously cross parents have influence as well, obviously. But I think it is important for boys to have fathers. I just think that is really important. Obviously, if they're massively abusive, that's another question. But I'm just talking very generally now. But like, I think that's a big problem, and it needs to be sorted out. And I don't know how we go about doing it, because you can't legislate it. You can't legislate people to just become better people. It just doesn't work that way. I honestly, it seems like such an overwhelming task sometimes. So that's why I just try to always bring it back to the individual and what we can do, because when you get lost in that mire, it does get too much, in my opinion. Like, it's just too much to fathom. I think like if we can focus on the things that we can actually do and the things that we have power over, that's going to be way more successful and have ripple effects throughout all of society, fingers crossed. So hopefully we can work towards that, and maybe it's radical feminism, maybe it's radical centrism, but I don't know what form it's going to take. But all I know is that I think you're right. We do need more communication, and that's the whole point of this series. You know, I'm glad you came on to say your piece.
No, thanks for having me.
It's all right, and I'd love to have you on again so that we can argue for another 3 hours.
Yeah, okay.
If you're willing to do that, and if you're willing to speak to other people as well. Courtney did say as well that she was interested in speaking to other people, like to speak into TERFs and stuff like that. I don't know how much she would disagree or not, because I obviously don't even know Courtney that well myself, although I did have a pretty good conversation with her. But that could be an interesting discussion if you're interested in doing that. So we'll see about maybe doing that in the future.
Maybe we could do like a roundtable one time. You can get all of us. You can get a detransitioner, you can get a TERF, you can get a TRA, you can get like an actual, like a feminist trans-identified male and like the trans activist, trans-identified female get like us all in there.
That's the dream, man. That's the dream.
Yeah.
A battle royale.
Cool.
Everyone just fight to the death. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I'm going to end the recording there. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Please give a like and subscribe so that we can have more of these conversations. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. I'm not doing this for money. I'm just doing this because I love people, and I think people need to start coming together rather than hating each other. So, so there we go. So yeah, thanks a lot again, and yeah, give Ella a look at as well. I'll drop the link to her YouTube in the description. And do you have anything else you want to plug as well, by the way, before I go?
Plug. Now I have a TikTok account that I think is probably going to get banned soon because I think they're cracking down on feminists. Right. It's ella.androphobia, but other than that, good to go.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.